Throughout this podcast series, we will be investigating the murder of Teresa Halbach. We will be addressing Steven Avery and his false rape conviction, his alleged involvement in Teresa's murder, and his accusation of corruption within his county's police department. We will also be analyzing the Netflix documentary series Making a Murderer and what we believe is lacking in the show. We will conclude with our personal thoughts on the case and who we suspect of the murder. Steven Avery's case took America by storm, from being exonerated after 18 years in prison to the release of an intriguing documentary series and a potential retrial. We will attempt to present the evidence as unbiased as possible, so here it goes. Troubles within the Avery family began several years before even his first false rape conviction. Stephen Allen Avery was born on July 9, 1962, and grew up in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. His family owned Avery's Auto Salvage, where he would eventually work when he became older. It was believed that he had an IQ of 70, he never finished high school, and his childhood was plagued with several petty crimes. In 1980, he was convicted of burglarizing a bar and served a 10-month jail sentence. A year later, he was convicted of throwing a cat in a fire and watching it burn to death, ultimately serving a 9-month jail sentence. In 1984, a complaint was filed after Avery continually exposed himself to his cousin, Sandra Morris. The following year, he forced her car off the road and pointed a gun at her, giving him a 6-year sentence, but he was granted bail. Stephen Avery and his family had a bad reputation with a criminal history. This life of petty crime peaked in 1985 when on July 29th, Penny Bjornson was raped on a beach near Two Rivers. She was running along Lake Michigan when a man grabbed and forced her into a wooded area. Following her rape, she described her rapist, which police believed to be Avery. When several suspects were brought in for a lineup, Bjornson chose Avery out of all of them. There was an overwhelming amount of evidence that Avery had another alibi, but the police dismissed it. A grand total of 16 people came forward, stating that he was somewhere else at the time of the crime. A worker at a paint store in Green Bay recalled Avery, his wife, and his 5 children buying paint from the store. The tape placed Avery buying the paint at 5:13 p.m., while Bernstein recalled that the attack happened at about 3:50 p.m. and lasted for about 15 minutes. It is physically impossible for Avery to have walked about a mile to the nearest parking lot where it was said he attacked Bernstein, drive home, pick up his wife and children, then drive another 45 miles to the paint store and be there at 5:13 p.m. The police found hair on one of Avery's shirts that coincided with Penny Bernstein's hair. Based on her eyewitness evidence and that hair evidence, Avery was convicted of the crime and sentenced to 32 years in prison. In 1995, a petition for DNA testing was granted. When Penny Bjornson was attacked, she fought back with the DNA of her attacker under her fingernails. The findings after testing the DNA could not rule Avery out as a suspect, and a new trial was denied. 7 years later, in April of 2002, with Avery in jail for 17 years, the Wisconsin Innocence Project stepped in. More evidence was saved from the crime, which happened to be 13 hairs. Based on DNA testing, it matched the hair to Gregory Allen. Allen was already in prison serving time for a sexual assault crime. When Avery's case was first being investigated in 1985, people suspected Allen of it, but no law enforcement official ever pursued the lead. On September 11, 2003, Avery was released from prison and cleared from his charges. It was later discovered that in 1995, Allen confessed to a sexual assault crime in Manitowoc County that someone else was jailed for, but again, no one investigated it. Soon after he was released and exonerated, he filed a $36 million wrongful conviction lawsuit against the county, district attorney, and sheriff. In 2005, Mark Gundrum of the Wisconsin Assembly Judiciary Committee introduced the Avery Bill. This responded to the wrongful conviction of Avery and the fact that he was exonerated by DNA evidence. The bill updates standards of DNA retention, forces testing of any DNA in the case to be done if someone is already convicted, and that interrogations be recorded with policy for police interrogation. Now, the bill has been renamed the Criminal Justice Reform Bill.